examination, I think it was vis-a-vis the parliament investigation. So I think these are two different investigations. So I wanted that clarification, whether you are guided by Parliament, because the Parliament are not experts. That's why we always bring in or loop in EACC to assist us with the investigation. Number two, would you call it a bribe if a gift is not declared, or gifts in a public office? Would you call it a bribe? Just the last one to the council. How do you cross-examine what someone came and said, but not exactly specific findings of the Senate? Because I found it a bit contradicting. Because the resolutions of the Senate is based on committees' observation and recommendations. But
Senator Kathuri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, mine is not to the council or to the witness, but to the remarks which has been given out here by Senator Karungo Dango. Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether you heard what he said, and I do not associate myself as a senator, honorable senator, with those remarks to a witness appearing before the Senate, that please don't answer me, answer your children. Mr. Speaker, that should be expunged from the records of the Senate and from the answer, Honorable Speaker.
Order, honorable senators. Senator Karungo, that is unparliamentary and totally out of order. Proceed to retract that statement, failure to which the chair will rule.
Mr. Speaker, as I withdraw, this session is viewed by everybody. At home, our children too. Mr. Speaker.
Senator Karungo, I never give you an opportunity to make a speech. Retract or you allow me to make a ruling.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I retract.
Take your seat.
I withdraw, and please answer me.
Take your seat, Senator Karungo. Senator Keroche Tabitha.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. And as a mother, I think I've also felt I'm hurt with Senator Karungo. But because it has been ruled, thank you. We should never, ever. I know we had a meeting, closed our meeting before we started this. And we all agreed we are going to behave. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Proceed to
so,
in a scandal of the 3.7 billion KEMSAR deal, in your own investigation, can you corroborate what Dr. Mulwa has claimed before this House? Thank you.
Senator Tom Ojenda.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, my question is different. I want to ask the previous, the advocate who spoke or presented the Kenya Kwanza agreement, my learned friend, to clarify a few issues. Mr. Yes, Council, can you clarify from the agreement, the Kenya Kwanza agreement, whether there are any shares for the...
Or rather requesting for a statement from the Administration and Internal Security Committee with regards to the accidents that are caused by a government vehicle, or rather an accident caused by a government vehicle in Isiolo County. Member for Soy. Will be requesting for a statement with regards to strategic food reserves in the this is a request that will be, or other statement that will be requested from the Agriculture and Livestock Committee. For Kilifi South, Honorable Ken Chonga also has a question, or rather will be requesting for a statement from the Administration and Internal Security Committee. This is with regards to evictions from a piece of land that is being contested, that is in Kilifi County. Also pursuant to the provisions of that particular Standing Order 44, paragraph 2C, the Honorable Member for Kathiani, Honorable Robert Mbui.
Senator Enoch Wambua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a few things to clarify from ESCC. One, did you find it necessary to record a statement from Crystal and Shobika in that probe? Because they had been mentioned. Were they entities of interest in the investigation? Secondly, has Shobika ever done any business with KEMSA or with Global Fund before the case on record? In your own investigations, did you find that? In your letter, I see you have recommended administrative action against the CEO, the acting director of procurement, and 2 procurement officers. I see no recommendation of any action, not necessarily by KEMSA, against Crystal or against Shobika. And I think that's in line with your own recommendation that in this case on record, there was no public funds lost, and eventually the bid was returned. So in your own investigation, what is at issue here? I thank you.
Senator Mofire.
I don't know whether this. Honorable Speaker, I want to know from the witness from the EACC. I've listened to his evidence, and I would want to know, on behalf of the whole House, whether the contract for mosquito nets, which was drawn out of interference, because I have captured those confessions from him. So my question is, Honorable Speaker, can he connect the company associated with the tomorrow?
Money, the law
realize is really
opportunity at that time to also make our closings. Judge, I was under the impression that the National Assembly will proceed and close their case, and that then Counsel for the Deputy President will now present the Deputy President, who is the only one that we are calling as a witness. And that thereafter, the National Assembly will make their closing speech, and we will have the opportunity at that time to also make our closing speech. So I would like to have clarification.
Very well, Senior Counsel. Maybe I'll read the whole program all the way to the end.
Thank you.
You will proceed. Of course, for the record, I will ask the National Assembly to officially rest their matter to allow you usher in your witness. Once your witness takes to the stand, you have 2 hours to present your case. The National Assembly has 1.5 hours for purposes of cross-examination. Thereafter, the senators will have 1 hour to seek clarifications or ask questions. Once that is done, the Counsel for the National Assembly will have 1 hour to make closing remarks. Likewise, the team of the Deputy President will be given 1 hour to make its closing remarks. Once that is done, the Senate will move into a closed session as per our rules of procedure. So that is the program for this afternoon.
I'm now very clear, Mheshimiwa Speaker, and I thank you. The situation is now clear. But just before my colleagues on the other side close their case, can I, through Mheshimiwa Speaker, ask whether the National Assembly still wishes to call a witness whose affidavit was filed, the governor of the county government of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja. We have a copy of his affidavit. Is he going to be called or not called? Because if the National Assembly is not calling that affidavit, whose affidavit is part of the record and was availed to us, that affidavit, Mheshimiwa Speaker, contains allegations that are extremely injurious to the Deputy President. So if he is not going to be called, we will be making an application for that affidavit to be expunged from the records of this Honorable Senate. Thank you.
Counsel for the National Assembly, you had listed quite a number of witnesses. Are you going to call all of them, or are you going to, for the record, are you going to close your case where we are?
Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of the National Assembly, we shall close our case where we are. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you are, with your permission, I could respond to the submissions by my learned senior, Mr. Paul Mwite.
Please do.
Mr. Speaker, sir, at the beginning of the proceedings that we are currently going through, this House did invite parties to give indications as to the witnesses they wanted to call. Mr. Speaker, sir, we gave the list of the witnesses whom we thought were relevant for purposes of clarifying what we needed to have clarified. If counsel for His Excellency the Deputy President did not do as much or did not take advantage of that window that was open, surely they cannot blame us for it. But secondly, and more importantly, Mr. Speaker, sir, yesterday, in the course of the deliberations in relation to one of the preliminary questions that had been raised, you gave a very clear ruling on the intendment of Rule 20 of the rules of this House. In particular, the understanding was that every material that was forwarded by the Speaker of the National Assembly to this House constituted evidence in support of the allegations that are the subject of inquiry by this House. It then follows that if the application that learned senior counsel, Mr. Paul Mwite, is making were to be looked at in its totality, he is actually making an application to amend or to remove certain aspects of the evidence from the record. Mr. Speaker, sir, that is an issue that you settled and rested yesterday. I don't think it's an issue that is open for re-intervention. Mr. Speaker, sir, it should also suffice to note that even on our side, there are affidavits that form part of the record that came from the National Assembly. In particular, there is an affidavit sworn and which is in favor of His Excellency the Deputy President, an affidavit sworn by the joint executors of the will, that is Mr. Njoroge Rigeru, together with the other executors. It is part of this record. We have not made an application to have it expanded. We have an opportunity to deal with it when the time comes. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, sir, the nature of the sittings that this House currently is undertaking is quasi-judicial. It is inquisitorial in nature. If that is to be the correct position, Mr. Speaker, sir, then the rules of evidence as we know it in the court would not necessarily bind the proceedings, because what has been presented is the subject of what the honorable senators are going to investigate. At the end of it, it is not a judgment that they will be giving, it will be a vote. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senior Counsel Paul Mwite.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, first and foremost, the affidavits that my colleague, my learned friend, referred to were sworn by the executors of the will of the late brother to the Deputy President. They were filed in the National Assembly, in the proceedings in the National Assemblies. They were never filed here as affidavits of witnesses that we proposed to call. With regard to the affidavit of Governor Sakaja Johnston, it was specifically filed in the Senate, an affidavit of a witness that they intended to call. That affidavit has material injurious to the Deputy President. Mheshimiwa Speaker, we were looking forward to cross-examining Governor Sakaja so as to bring out the truth to assist this Honorable Senate to make a decision. If he is not being called, and in fairness to the deputy governor, all that we are asking is that affidavit be expunged together with the affidavit of Peterson Jomo, who they are not calling now, and also the affidavit of Mercy Wajau, who is not being called. It is not fair to file affidavits containing information allegations injurious to the other party, then ask that those affidavits to remain as part of the record without calling them and availing them for cross-examination. So my application is that the 3 affidavits be struck out. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, sir, just for clarity, there's absolutely no new material that was presented after the material that was sent to this House from the National Assembly. For instance, the affidavit by His Excellency Johnson Sakaja is to be found at volume 1 of the documents that have been filed.
Maybe counsel for the National Assembly. Let me get it clear.
Yes,
the
Mr.
affidavit by the Nairobi governor, was it filed after the proceedings of the National Assembly, or it forms part and parcel of the proceedings that came from the National Assembly?
It forms part and parcel of the proceedings that came from the National Assembly. In particular, Mr. Speaker, sir, all those affidavits form what constituted part of what came into through public participation.
So just hold in there so that we make progress. Senior counsel, you have indicated that the affidavit by the Honorable Governor for Nairobi did not form part of the documents that emanated from the National Assembly. Now, the position as held by the Council of the National Assembly is to the contrary. These are things we can settle now. Did it come with a bundle of documents from the National Assembly, or it was filed after the Senate was seized of those documents?
Mheshimiwa Speaker, I have been corrected by my colleagues. The affidavits where the affidavit by Governor Johnson Sakaja was actually part of the public participation. So it was part of the record of the National
So now, let's move to the 2.
Yes.
Let's move to the 2. Now, have a seat, Senior Counsel. Counsel for the National Assembly.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yeah, respond to the 2 more affidavits, because the contention from the Council of the Deputy President is that they were filed after the record was received from the National Assembly by the Senate.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I reiterate the position that we earlier on gave, that there's not any single document other than the document that was admitted yesterday pursuant to our application that came in after the record had been presented before this House.
So the affidavits were not filed after the Senate received the bundle of documents from the National Assembly?
Absolutely not.
Can you lead us to the volume and the page containing these affidavits from the National Assembly?
Mr. Speaker, sir, just give me 1 minute to consult with my colleagues here. I identify it, then I bring it. It's not an issue that we had anticipated.
Yeah, so that we settle this matter.
Most of that.
Yeah, let's settle it.
It is not, Mheshimiwa Speaker, it's only the affidavit of Peterson Jomo that was filed in the Senate. It did not form any part
Very well,
of the
Senior
National
Counsel.
Assembly.
So then let's settle that one and we make progress. We need not argue on this matter.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I think what happened is that we skipped the opportunity to identify the documents from both sides of what had been filed. The documents that we filed yesterday has a volume 8. That is the document that contains the affidavit of Peterson Jomo.
So it is that affidavit, if you go to the Senior Counsel, it is that affidavit that they're looking forward to cross-examining the deponent. Now that you've closed your case, the argument from the counsel of the Deputy President is, how then are we going to test the truth of those averments? What say you on that?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I did give an indication that, number one, at the commencement of these proceedings, any party who wanted to cross-examine any of the deponents of any of the documents had an opportunity upon your invitation to invite such parties to appear before them. If our counterparts appearing for His Excellency the Deputy President did not find it appropriate to call that witness at that point in time, they cannot now hold us to say that you had said you'd call this person, you will not call them. Because the person we were to call was for purposes of clarifying what we thought was important for us. Now, this being an inquisitorial proceeding, a quasi-judicial proceeding, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it would be a stretch to expect that if we didn't call or if we didn't avail any of the witnesses that were mentioned in any of the affidavits, then as of necessity that follows that that record or that affidavit needs to be expunged. That's what I was saying. Pursuant to your ruling yesterday, that is evidence and material that was presented yesterday. It forms part of your record.
Now, before I give my way forward, Senator for Nairobi City.
Honorable Speaker, the counsel that are appearing in this case are people that I hold in extremely high regard. Senior Counsel Paul Muite appears to not have the confidence of the judges sitting here that we know how to treat evidence contained in an affidavit that is not tested at cross-examination. Even the judges you appear before in the courts that you practice in know what to do with evidence of a person who is not availing themselves for cross-examination. So, Honorable Speaker, I really don't understand what the contention is, because we sitting here as judges know how to treat that evidence, and I wanted to take this opportunity to calm the anxiety of Senior Counsel Paul Muite, that indeed we do know what to do with such evidence.
Now, so that we make progress, Senior Counsel has raised an important matter, which matter has been responded to by the Counsel for the National Assembly. Now, honorable senators, there is an affidavit sworn by one Njomo Mushira, who had been listed to appear as a witness for and on behalf of the National Assembly. The National Assembly has closed its case without calling that particular witness, and yet there's an affidavit that the counsel for the Deputy President will not have an opportunity to cross-examine. The question, as you retire at the end of this hearing, is to look at the probative value of that particular document. Senior Counsel Paul Muite, your point is valid. The senators have noted.
Because this is an important, very important institution with a judicial function, court of record, permit me to put on record that there is a slight distinction between counsel and the client. I have absolute full faith in honorable senators, including my friend, the senator for Nairobi, but I am carrying out instructions of my client.
Yeah, so I've given direction on this particular matter. Let us move forward. Having said that, Senior Counsel Paul Muite, if you're ready, you may now usher in your witness.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, we are anxiously waiting for the Deputy President. My colleagues can stand here, can stand in. For me, let me make inquiries and find out where he's held up. We certainly wish to call him as a witness.
Very well. Yes, what is your point of procedure, Senator Boni?
Unprecedented, to the extent that when we stand down business in this House, it normally arises from a communication from the chair that you're temporarily, for a specific time, suspending the proceedings. You have not done this, and we are seated in the chamber. The mess is in place. I do not know whether we want this to be the new standard, Mr. Speaker. Could you guide us? We have no idea how long we're going to wait. And time is running, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, at the rise of the House at 1:15, I made it clear that upon resumption, the Deputy President was going to take the stand. We came in here, I communicated the program for the afternoon, and I said we're going to execute it with military precision, owing to the fact that we need to conclude business today. Senior Counsel Paul Mwite indicated that he cannot get hold of his client. That is not the concern of this House. So time is running. Order, order, honorable senators, order. The floor is available to the Deputy President and no other senator or no other enemy.
Well, the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Kingi, currently presiding over the business of the Senate this afternoon, has just directed that the floor at this particular juncture is not available to any other senator owing to the...
Enoch, I used very basic English. I know you. You have such a wonderful grasp of the language. You need not to get any clarification.
It is exactly 15:04 p.m. this afternoon, being the 17th day of October 2024. The afternoon sitting of the Senate this afternoon was to kick off with the Deputy President taking the stand, bearing in mind the DP, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, is the sole witness in the case where the National Assembly, through the move of the motion, Honorable Mwengi Mutuse has leveled 11 grounds for impeachment of the Deputy President from office. We have already dispensed with the prosecution side, and during this afternoon sitting, immediately after the commencement of business, the council representing the National Assembly have confirmed to the House that they do not intend to call more witness in regards to this case. The counsel for the Deputy President had requested the House through the Speaker that any evidence where the witnesses are not appearing be expunged from the record. It is a moment of waiting at the Senate this afternoon as the House awaits the arrival of the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, who is set to take this stand at the Senate this afternoon and prosecute his case through himself as well as his defense, and convince senators why the 11 grounds listed for impeachment should be quashed by the House. Our dear viewers, the motion for the removal by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, has 11 grounds where the National Assembly is seeking to have the Senate uphold the charges, or at least one of them, to have the Deputy President cease to hold office today. The mover of this motion, Honorable Mwengi Mutuse, who also serves as Gachagua'S West lawmaker, has told senators for the better part of yesterday and today that his desire through this motion is that the House finds the Deputy President to have committed the offenses listed in this motion. And this afternoon, the defense of the Deputy President, led by Senior Counsel Lawyer Paul Muite, will be seeking to water down those charges by the evidence that they will be presenting before the Senate this afternoon. And to just take you through probably some of the charges that the Deputy President will be seeking to counter this afternoon is charge number 1 on the gross violation of the Constitution and any other law. This is pursuant to Articles 150, subsection 1BI of the Constitution. Charge number 2 in the impeachment motion by Honorable Member for Gachagua'S West. The Honorable Member alleges in his motion that there is gross violation of Articles 147 subsection 1 and 152 subsection 1 of the Constitution, where the Deputy President is being accused of undermining the presidency. Under Article 147 subsection 1 of the Constitution, the Deputy President is the principal assistant of the President and shall deputize the President in the execution of President's function. In this motion, the Honorable Deputy President is going in contravention with cabinet resolutions on matters evacuation of people residing along Nairobi River, and that shortly after His Excellency, shortly after being in contravention with the cabinet resolution, the Deputy President made public a statement opposing the Nairobi River riparian execution orders. Of the motion, this is undermining the resolutions by the cabinet. Under charge number 3, again on gross violation of Article 6, subsection 2, Articles 10, subsection 2A, Article 174, and Article 188, and the 4th schedule of the Constitution, where the Deputy President is accused of undermining devolution. of the motion, in his motion, states that on the 20th of September 2024, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, recklessly and mindful of the high calling and dignified status of the office of the Deputy President, unlawfully interfered with the running of the Nairobi County government by holding a public rally in which he incited citizens against lawful directives by the Nairobi City County government on the planning and relocation of markets. This is just some of the grounds listed, or some of the annexes under charge number 3, where the Deputy President is set to defend himself on these charges, among others.
Senior Counsel Paul Mwita, your time started running.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, may I...
Let me just conclude, Senior. Your time started running at the time I requested you to usher in your witness. You indicated that you're getting hold of your witness. We'll give you all the time you need to get hold of your witness, but to let you know that the clock is running, and it's running on your client. You can take all the time, but his time is running out. After 2 hours, he's not appeared, the chair will make a ruling pursuant to the rules of procedure.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, may I start first and foremost by expressing apologies and regrets that the Deputy President is not here, and by not being here, the inconvenience and delay caused to Mheshimiwa Speaker and to honorable senators. The position, Mheshimiwa Speaker, is that during that period that I went to try to find out why he wasn't here, because as Mheshimiwa Speaker knows, the Deputy President has been coming here absolutely punctually every day. The sad reality is that the Deputy President, the Republic of Kenya, has been taken sick, very sick, and as I address Mr. Speaker in this honorable House, senators, he is in hospital, Mheshimiwa Speaker. That is a sad reality.
Order, honorable senators. Order, honorable senators. Senator Gachagua'S. Now, Counsel for the National Assembly, you have had Senior Counsel Paul Mwita for and on behalf of the Deputy President. Considering that this is a time-bound process, what is your reaction?
Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a house governed by the rule of law. We truly empathize with the difficulty that His Excellency, the Deputy President, has found himself in. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Rule 11 of the rules governing this process, if I may, with your permission,
maybe Counsel for the National Assembly.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Just take a seat before you make your rejoinder. Senior Counsel Paul Muite, having said whatever you've said, what is your proposed way forward so that a reaction can be put from the National Assembly? Are you telling us we wait until your client gets here? What is your proposed way forward?
Mheshimiwa Speaker, I have just received this information. My proposal is that you give me at least the rest of the day. I would like to go and have an assessment of his situation and maybe even come back here by 5 p.m. Right now, I would like to make an informed sort of situation after I see the Deputy President and I see the doctor, Mheshimiwa Speaker, at least an hour or two. Yes, thank you.
Very well. Counsel for the National Assembly.
Mr. Speaker, sir, having very keenly listened to my learned senior colleague, Paul Muite, Senior Counsel, it puts us in a bit of a difficulty because whereas we may want to empathize with the situation, there appears to be no indication from their end as to a specific proposal. Mr. Speaker, sir, this being a house governed by rules and this process being a time-bound process, I will draw your attention to Rule 11 of the rules of this, this House. If I may read, Mr. Speaker, sir, that where the National Assembly or the President chooses not to appear before the Senate, that fact shall be put on record and the Senate shall proceed with its investigation without further reference to the National Assembly or the President. But the Senate may, for exceptional reasons to be recorded, permit a later appearance before the Senate by the National Assembly or the President. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think this rule would give us guidance we may proceed. If it becomes necessary, then any additional material may then be availed. This is a time-bound constitutional process, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm most obliged.
Let me pick the wisdom of my wonderful senators before I make my decision on the way forward. Now, I understand that all of you are wise men and women.
Speaker, can I just say a word?
Yes.
I've heard what Senior Counsel Paul Muite has said. And, Mr. Speaker, you have made it quite clear that these proceedings are time-bound. It's not so much about the situation in which His Excellency the Vice President finds himself. It's about the Senate complying with the provisions of the Constitution. That within that time frame, you must make a decision. Reading the standing orders that my learned friend, Mr. Rick Gumbo, has referred to, it would be useful to this House if Senior Counsel Paul Muite could probably give us a way forward in terms of the time limitation that the Senate has. I'm saying this because we don't want somebody to say that the Deputy President was not given an opportunity to be heard. I think the Senate will want him to be heard. But knowing the time limitation, what suggestions does the Senior Counsel have to ensure that we keep within the time parameters? At the same time, the Deputy President is given his space to defend himself.
So we have two sides. We have the minority side and the majority side. I will only allow the two leaders to speak. If you need to consult in the next 1 minute, now, honorable senators, our standing orders have not been suspended yet. It is only Senator Mazayo and the majority leader. The rest, take your seat. The rest, please take your seat. Order, honorable senators.
site in terms of depth, in terms of the soil conditions, so that when it rains, the drainage, the water that will be draining from that particular site will not endanger the existing rivers and wells. So, Honorable Speaker, there is no shortcut to disposal of asbestos. All what we will need to do as a house is probably to take it up, allocate adequate funds when we are doing our budgets so that they can be disposed of safely. Otherwise, haphazard disposal will create more problems than it is now. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Gikaria, as the chair of the committee, I doubt if you will do justice to this statement. I direct that upon resumption after the short recess, on the first Wednesday after resumption, the Minister for Environment appears before the House to tell the country how they are going to get asbestos roofings of all structures in the country and how they are going to dispose them of in the manner described in the act that banned the use of asbestos. Because 10 years down the line, hospitals, churches, schools, dwelling houses still have asbestos roofs. So what you will do is join the clerk in conveying this message to the minister that you chair the oversight committee, and he will be here in 2 weeks with a comprehensive statement with timelines on when we are going to clear this menace once and for all. We together? Thank you, Chairman. Honorable Tandaza.
Asante mstahiki Spika, nasimama kwa ombi la kauli kuhusu kukarabatiwa kwa barabara ya Mwabungo Majimboni Shimba Hills Kilulu Mrima kwa alama ya mabano ba 98. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa mujibu wa kanuni ya 44(2) cha, naomba kauli kutoka kwa mwenyekiti wa kamati ya kiidara uchukuzi na miundo msingi kuhusu kukarabatiwa kwa barabara ya Mwabungo Majimboni Shimba Hills Kilulu Mrima nambari ba 98. Mheshimiwa Spika, miundombinu bora hasa barabara nzuri ni kichocheo muhimu cha maendeleo ya kiuchumi na uboreshaji wa hali ya maisha kwa kurahisisha kufikia huduma za umma kwa haraka inavyohitajika. Hata hivyo, wakazi wa eneo bunge la Matuga bado hawajafurahia miundo msingi kwa sababu ya hali duni ya takriban kilomita 50 za barabara ya Mwabungo Majimboni Shimba Hills Kilulu Mrima, ambayo kwa sasa iko katika hali mbaya na haipitiki. Mbali na kuanganisha sehemu nyingi inazopitia katika kaunti ya Kwale, barabara hii pia hufanikisha shughuli za utalii katika hifadhi ya kitaifa ya Shimba Hills. Hali mbaya ya barabara hiyo imeathiri uchumi kwa kupandisha gharama ya uchukuzi, biashara na ufikishaji huduma za umma. Licha ya mamlaka ya barabara kuu ya Kenya, KENHA, kutangaza zabuni nambari KENHA mraba R9 mraba 150 mraba 2024 ya kukarabati barabara hiyo mwezi wa Februari 2024, hakuna hatua yoyote dhahiri ambayo imechukuliwa hadi sasa, hali ambayo inazua wasiwasi miongoni mwa wakazi kuhusu utekelezaji wa zabuni hiyo. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kutokana na hali hiyo ndipo naomba kauli ya mwenyekiti wa kamati ya uchukuzi.
I have been able to point out various findings, submissions. For example, the submissions finding themselves at page 222, paragraph 107 and 106, 107 and 109 find themselves at the recommendation, at the observation of the Senate at page 271. So there is serious correlation between my findings as submitted by various parties who appeared before the Senate and the observations made by the Senate. So I dealt largely on what the Senate found as opposed to what the Senate had during the proceedings. Number two, Mr. Speaker, sir, clarification was sought as to why the bid failed, and although that will be dealt with at length, permit me to draw the attention of the Assembly to page 108 of the volume 3 of the Deputy President's Body of Documents. You'll find a letter from KEMSA dated the 5th May 2023, being a notification to Shobika Impex Private Limited. And it reads, the reference is made to the above tender and advised that the tender was unsuccessful due to the following reasons. 1, tender security was not paginated. Number 2, please plan to collect your bid security from the procurement office immediately. It may be of interest to note the date when this letter is being generated is the 5th of May. It also be of interest to note when the alleged bullying and intimidation occurred. This letter precedes the alleged bullying, alleged intimidation. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, sir, this letter is voluntarily being issued and being generated by KEMSA themselves at their own intuition, as opposed to being triggered by any external officer, in this case, the person of the Deputy President. In their own volition, KEMSA triggers and invites Shobika to come and collect their bids, and on witness, Mr. Speaker, sir, the witness confirmed that this is always the end of a failed bid. Finally, Mr. Speaker, sir, permit me to draw the attention of the Assembly to the matter in issue. That is at page 36 of the volume 1 of the impeachment motion. The matter in issue that is subject for interrogation, Mr. Speaker,
45 seconds.
As I pen off, is not whether the tenders were responsive, whether the country lost any money, whether investigations were done, whether there was conflict of interest, whether there were gifts that accrued therefrom. The question in issue is, did the person of the Deputy President bully the officer? Was there evidence? So let us not lose ground or focus on the ground on the matter in issue, so that we focus and we put the train on rail. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Counsel for the National Assembly, take us to the rise of the House.
Mr. Speaker, sir, how many minutes? 10? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I am here to respond on behalf of the National Assembly on only 2 questions. Mr. Speaker, sir, listening to the Deputy President's side, I believe they have misunderstood the nature and context of ground number 11. And there was a question by the Senator whether we have substantiated ground number 11 on bullying of KEMSA officials. Secondly, there was a question also on whether there was loss of public funds in this tendering process. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to answer the first question by mentioning that the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya is a high-ranking state official. The Republic of Kenya, the polity of the Republic of Kenya is based on certain fundamental national values and principles of governance. In addition, there are provisions on leadership and integrity. If you look at the provisions of Article 75, starting with 73, then you conclude with 75. There is an express prohibition on conflict of interest when it comes to all state offices. Now, to contextualize that question, you have to look at the purpose of impeachment. The deputy president, being a high-ranking state officer, means that there is a constitutional process for bringing him into account to question his conduct. And that is why you have this process of impeachment. Impeachment is about political responsibility. It's about governance. Impeachment is not about criminal culpability. It's not about gathering evidence for purpose of taking him to court. It's about bringing him to account on what he has done from a political standpoint, and that issue of the distinction of criminal processes from impeachment has been clarified by the Supreme Court of Kenya. The Supreme Court of Kenya, in the case of Mike Sonko, was expressed clear and unequivocal that impeachment is about those values, ethos in Article 10 and the provisions of leadership and integrity in Chapter 6. Now, if you look at the way ground number 11 has been coached, ground number 11, Mr. Speaker, sir, ground number 11 talks about gross misconduct. Now, the Supreme Court of Kenya has interpreted what amounts to gross violation, which in context then means gross misconduct. And the conclusion is that when you violate these core values in Article 10 and the provisions of leadership and integrity, then you are guilty of gross misconduct. You are guilty also of gross violation of the Constitution. Sometimes you are guilty of abuse of office. So to put it in context, if you look at that charge that we have put in ground number 11, it talks about bullying of KEMSA officials. Now, that fact of bullying, and we have been more specific. If you look at the charge, we have mentioned the specific clause of legislation where the act of bullying has been prohibited. And this provision, if you look at the provisions of the Leadership and Integrity Act, the provisions of the Leadership and Integrity Act specifically prohibit bullying of bullying by state officials. And in that context, then you can see that in terms of the allegation that we are making and the evidence which has been submitted before this House, especially that call which was made by the Deputy President. The call was made by the Deputy President to a KEMSA official. Why would the Deputy President be pushing the interests of a commercial, the commercial interests of a private company? That is crystal clear when you look at his own admission in his response to this allegation. The Deputy President has admitted that he lent the sum of Kenya shillings 200 million to Crystal Company to acquire some hotel in Nyeri. This is the same company which the Deputy President is making a call to KEMSA to consider. And a senior KEMSA official, in this case the managing director, goes to EACC in a tender process.
Mr. Speaker, I was just wondering which clarification my learned colleague is responding to, because the time for submission is in the evening.
Yes, Council from the National Assembly.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, so I'm just concluding that it's an impeachable offense to make the link.
Very well, now conclude.
Yes, so, Mr. Speaker, sir, if you look at then the evidence which has been submitted by Dr. Mulwa, that he received a call from the Deputy President, who is a high-ranking state official, to go to EACC, and then he went to EACC to collect evidence, which EACC had gathered for purposes of submitting that tender to the Deputy President or his conduct, in this case, his son. Then what we are saying is that that act by the Deputy President then constitutes a violation of the provisions of the Leadership and Integrity Act, specifically Section 34 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, and that amounts to bullying And to that extent, we are submitting that charge has indeed been substantiated in all its four corners. On the second question, and here again, it appears there is a misnomer. To prove an economic crime, you don't need to prove that there was loss of funds. An economic crime in this case occurs when a sitting deputy president, in a tendering process, he makes a call, which the recipient then interprets in a different way, perhaps to influence the tendering process, or perhaps to for certain decisions to be made in favor of that person. And the person who is making the call is a sitting deputy president. That is why then the provisions of the Constitution prohibit conflict of interest.
If you may, I think my learned friend has enjoyed a lot of latitude in respect to responding to issues that were not sought for clarification. I was taking note of all the issues that were sought. And the issue that Council is responding to are not among those that were sought. And if they were, then he needs to indicate from which particular senator did seek that.
Council for National Assembly, reserve other matters for submission.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, so I'm responding to the question of whether there was loss of funds.
That was not sought for clarification.
It was sought by a senator. And,
it was sought.
It was sought.
It was sought. Yeah. 1 minute.
Yeah. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, in this case, evidence has been led. If you look at it from one perspective, evidence has been led by Dr. Mulwa that indeed there was a delay in this procurement. Secondly, fewer nets were supplied. Thirdly, there was a question concerning the costs incurred in this tendering process. And the evidence was that 55 million shillings was incurred in this tendering process. It came from the mouth of Dr. Mulwa. So to that extent, you can see there was some loss. Whereas the tender was financed by the Global Fund, from our own perspective, we lost a lot, not only from a monetary perspective, but also from the other factors. What about Kenyans who did not access this malaria, these mosquito nets and were exposed to malaria? Is that not a loss which is non-monetary, and therefore, to that extent, one can make a conclusion that the conduct of the Deputy President in this regard violates the provisions of Section 34 of the Leadership and Integrity Act? Mr. Speaker, so I end by stating that we have fully substantiated ground number 11, and it's one of those grounds where the evidence is clear, conspicuous, and there is a nexus to the Deputy President himself through a phone call that he made to Dr. Mulwa, and he has admitted making that phone call. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, honorable senators, we are going to start with the Deputy President at exactly 2:30. If you keep time, we're going to save time so that we don't have to ring the bell for a quorum. If we can start taking the evidence from the Deputy President at 2:30, then we'll be able to manage our time going forward. You may now rise. Honorable Senators, it is now 1:15, and having concluded the business for which I extended the hours of the sitting pursuant to Standing Order 34-2A, the Senate stands adjourned until today, 17th of October 2024 at 2:30 p.m.
This is what I'm here for. Creativity and everything has to be different from every other person.
Let's get on the floor.
20 hand-picked would-be designers compete to become the next big thing in the industry. The contestants must showcase their ability to sketch, design, and sew under pressure. Let the style revolution begin.
As the sitting Deputy President for the Republic of Kenya.
That's all for purposes of the examination in chief of this witness, Mr. Speaker.
Counsel for the Deputy President.
Good evening, Mr. Mulwa.
Good evening.
My name is Dewan Jiru. I will be asking you several questions in respect to the testimony that you have just delivered. When did you join the KEMSA?
I joined KEMSA on the 17th of March 2023.
Before that, who was the CEO of the organization?
Ramadan.
Concerns raised by the honorable member, as a committee, through the chair, we will follow up by engaging the ministry further and inviting the cabinet secretary to a further meeting together with the honorable member so that she can come and have a meeting with the ministry and members of the committee.
Fair enough, thank you. Next, is there a response for the question by Honorable Ruku? He's not around. Okay, so let's proceed to the other statements. You have the statement. Okay, proceed.
Honorable Senators, the National Assembly Volume 1 at page 67 and 68. Did you indicate the companies that participated in that process?
I did not indicate the companies that...
You chose to conveniently refuse to indicate them, correct? Correct or not correct? I don't need an explanation.
Not correct.
Why didn't you indicate the companies that participated in that particular process?
My affidavit.
Your affidavit has explained it.
My affidavit is premised on...
Okay, I know your affidavit.
Yes.
I have read it several times, but my question is very specific. Why did you leave out the other companies that participated in the process?
For purposes of my affidavit, I did not find it necessary to
Never thought it necessary. Now, confirm that Shobika company was never ever awarded the tender.
The tender was cancelled.
Tender was cancelled. Did the Republic of Kenya lose any money as a result of the award not being granted to Shobika?
Yes, it did.
Did the Deputy President have anything to do with it? Did the Deputy President have anything to do with it?
I wouldn't say the Deputy President.
I'm asking, you know, we are here because of the Deputy President. Did he have anything to do with it?
A company related to
I'm asking, did he have anything to do with it? It's a simple question. Yes or no?
I already have...
Yes, and you'll furnish me with an answer.
I've said yes, because the company that is associated with him had been irregularly awarded.
Had been irregularly awarded. Do you know that this matter was subject of investigation by Parliament?
Yes, I am.
Did you participate in that investigation?
Yes.
Honorable Senators, refer with me to page 183, volume 3 of the Deputy President's bundle. Volume 3, Honorable Senators. That is the report. We'll go with me to page 220. At page 220, Mr. Witness.
Can I get the document?
Give him something. Give him the copy. You can get volume 3 for him.
The 17th day of October, the year being 2024, we have entered the second and probably the final day for the hearing and determination on the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. So, our dear viewers, the Senate will today, being the second day, for when this motion has been allocated time, consider the charges leveled against the Deputy President. There are 11 charges. These are the charges leveled by the mover of the motion at the National Assembly, Honorable Gachagua'S West Lawmaker, Honorable Mwengi Mutuse. And having heard from the team representing the National Assembly for the better part of yesterday, today the Defense Counsel for the Deputy President, led by their lead counsel, Paul Muite, will be having their time to counter the accusation leveled against the Deputy President. But last evening, or last night, before the Senate adjourned its sitting to sit again today morning, we had heard from a number of witnesses from the prosecution side. We heard from the evidence in chief, who also happens to be the mover of the motion, as well as former KEMSA CEO, Dr. Andrew Mulwa. According to the ruling by the Speaker, this morning, members of the Senate will have their time that will be directed by the Speaker of the Senate to cross-examine the witnesses, and we expect the prosecution side to equally prosecute their matter to conclusion today. Remember, they have a balance of about 45 minutes, and they still have a number of witnesses that are set to appear before the Senate. They include Mercy Wanjau, who also serves as the Secretary to the Cabinet, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja, Mr. Peterson Njomo Mushira, and another witness that is set to take a stand at the Senate this morning is an official from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Remember, the defense team had objected to the introduction of the official from EACC, terming that as a new evidence that was being introduced midway. But the Speaker of the Senate ruled that that was not the case, as the evidence was just coming to support the evidence already presented. So for the better part of today, we'll be having the Deputy President and his council convince senators as to why they should be throwing out the charges leveled against the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. That is before the Senate votes on each and every charge leveled against the Deputy President. And in the event any of the charges upheld, then the Deputy President will stand to be impeached by the Senate. And our dear viewers, allow me to hand over for this live broadcast as the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Kingi, has already stepped into the chamber this morning. My name is Gladys Mungai. Have yourself a great morning and enjoy your viewing.
Tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, twakusihi tutazame kwa neema nyingi na baraka sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita kwa nyadhifa za uongozi katika jamhuri hii yetu. Twakuomba utuajalie tuyatende na kufikia mambo yote atakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Clerk, do we have quorum? Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
Quorum bell is currently on a ring mode at the Senate this morning, following the directives by the Speaker, Honorable Amason Jeffrey Kingi, that the Sergeant at Arms during the quorum bell for 10 minutes to give some sort of leeway for senators to make their way into the chamber this morning, to necessitate the quoration of the House to about 15 senators, according to the standing orders of the House, for the House to commence business this morning, which is the hearing and determination of the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Away from that, allow me to take you through some of the evidence and documents that have been tabled before the Senate for consideration. The National Assembly has forwarded the following documents to support their case. The documents include the impeachment motion and witness affidavits, the exhibits of the impeachment motion, the public participation report, the House proceedings, the Deputy President's response in regards to the motion to kick him out of office, and an affidavit by Peterson Njomo Mushira, among others, as the support for their case against the Deputy President. The Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya is currently facing 11 charges listed in the motion for his impeachment, that by the end of today, the House will vote on each and every charge. And in regards to the laws of impeachment that guides the Senate, in the event that the senators vote to uphold either of the 11 charges, the Deputy President would stand impeached. But that will not be the end, or that might not be the end, as he might opt to continue fighting for his political lifeline through the courts. The other probable outcome is that the Senate, upon hearing the defense and the prosecution side, and after having voted, the other way would be to probably, in the event they don't find the charges, the 11 charges, to have been substantiated. And upon taking of the vote, neither of the charge is voted to have been substantiated, then the motion falls and the Deputy President continues to hold office. Well, the team representing the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, who until last evening said their witness was only going to be the Deputy President in response to the charges leveled against the Deputy President. The team is being led by Senior Counsel Paul Muite, being the lead counsel for the defense team. They equally have Elisha Odhiambo, an advocate of the High Court, Mr. Tom Mashira, Advocate Ndegwa Njiru, Advocate John Jomo, Advocate Faith Waigwa, Advocate George Wandati, among others. They are totaling to about 14 advocates who are at the Senate to defend the Deputy President, who is the only witness in his case for impeachment. The defense has equally forwarded documents to the Senate in regards to how they intend to counter the accusations facing the second in command. The accusation among them are the documents that the defense is supposed to be relying on for the better part of today to defend the Deputy President, are the response to the particulars of the allegations in the motion by Honorable Mwengi Mutuse. This is a response to the charges leveled against the Deputy President in the impeachment motion. They equally have presented witness affidavits of Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, EDH, and further witnesses in further affidavits under Volume 4 of the documents by the Deputy President. The defense equally has video and electronic evidence that will be played for the better part of today as they seek to convince senators why they should be throwing out the case against the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Kindly take your seats. Clerk, you may now call the first order.
Order number 1, communication from the chair.
Now, during yesterday's session, there's a volume that had been made available by the Council for the National Assembly. And I remember Senior Counsel Mwite, you sought the photocopy, did not introduce new material. Can we therefore now admit that document, Senior Counsel?
We looked at it, Mheshimiwa Speaker, and we have no objection. Now it can be introduced. Thank you.
Very well. May the same be admitted and be made available to all honorable senators. Next order.
Order number 2, hearing and determination on the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Now, honorable senators, ladies and gentlemen, at the rise of the House last night, the National Assembly had called 2 witnesses. They had done the evidence in chief, cross-examined, re-examined, and it was then the opportunity for the honorable senators to seek for clarifications when the House adjourned. Now, the National Assembly has a balance of 20 minutes to conclude its case. The Deputy President has 45 minutes, having taken 1 hour from the 3 hours that had been indicated to the Deputy President for today. Let us stick to the time so that we can be able to conclude this matter in good time today. Now, honorable senators, ladies and gentlemen, we will start with the clarifications sought from the first witness of the National Assembly, Honorable Mutuse. Thereafter, we will move to the second witness and conclude, and then we can now allow the National Assembly to call their third witness. Is Honorable Mutuse present? Good.
Present, Mr. Speaker.
You'll be noting the questions and the clarifications sought from the honorable senators. The Honorable Senator for Nandi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just clarification, but since we had started yesterday with the word of the Lord, I want to leave to my brother Ekomas Mutuse through you. In Proverbs 12, verses 22, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in those who is telling the truth. So, Mheshimiwa Mutuse Ekomas, I leave you with that. My quick clarification, Chair, with your indulgence. 1, by the time you are giving us that the wealth of the Deputy President was 5.2 billion Kenyan shillings that you allege has been acquired for the last 2 years, did you access the wealth declaration from EACC? Number 1. Number 2, under the NCIC Act and in Mudama's case that the courts ruled, is shareholding part of the definition of the word incitement? Number 3, in the matter of Kilifi Malindi Road, do you have any evidence to prove whether it is a private or a public road? And if it is either private or public, can you table the evidence or before the House? Number 4, clarification on the issue of Justice Esther Maina. Are you telling us that since the Deputy President is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, does he not have a right as a citizen of Kenya not to bring any complaint against any officer, including judicial officers. Finally, on the update quickly, on 1st October 10, 2024, Cabinet Secretary Mutua
Senator Kenywa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My question goes to Honorable Mutuse. Honorable Mutuse, was Treetop Hotel, was it available for acquisition? And if that is so, was there any law of procurement that was breached? Second one, what is the age of these DP's sons? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Fatuma Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question first goes to the council on the side of the Deputy President. My question is on attack on the national security. And knowing that national intelligence, Mr. Speaker, is a critical organ of a government. And the attack by the Deputy President is a very serious one. And I've seen the video being played that what the current president said when he was the Deputy President is equal. And I heard also the Deputy President saying, I have learned from my boss. Does that answer the question of gross misconduct on the part of attack on the security? Number two, the issue of this inheriting the widow. We've been told a lot of stories here, but I really want to know, because we are Africans, matters of widows are very critical. Have you thought of looking for the family of the late Gachagua, just to clarify so many questions that are lingering around that particular family? I thank you.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi. If you're in the first round, honorable senators, allow others also to get an opportunity to seek clarifications.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. My clarification is to the DP's team. On a video that was played yesterday at a relocation point in Nairobi County, I want a clarification from the DP's team on whether their client is aware that county governments are distinct governments. And if so, Honorable Speaker, did the DP consult with the county government of Nairobi over the challenges of relocation at Kayole? And two, Honorable Speaker, there was a video that was played, either one or two, involving a speech at either rally by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya. My question is, what was the essence of that video? And is it to show that two wrongs would make one right? Thank you.
Senator Lelegwe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My clarification is to the witness of the National Assembly. Yesterday, during the cross-examination, the advocate of the Deputy President, you asserted that you have identified several companies which you have no issues, and to which you do not attribute any misconduct in their dealings. Given this context, could you inform the necessity for including these companies in the present impeachment motion? Thank you.
Senator Eddy.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I have one question for the witness in chief.